Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, lunatics of all ages, the maniac has arrived. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. The maniac is here in the house and ready to talk about something that we haven't really talked about in a very long time. Hold on, I need a sip of my drink here. All right. We're going to dive right in. Welcome, everyone. We're going to dive right into talking about something that y'all know I've been passionate about forever. We're talking about pro wrestling. Everything that I've gone through over the years. For those of you who don't know me, you're about to get to know a whole lot about me. I have done everything from the backyard to the Indy leagues. And we're going to talk about all of that tonight. Oh yeah. So, I've got a couple things on tap for you. I'm going to run videos throughout this. Well, we're going to try anyways, and we're going to see how that works. But we're going to try and run some videos throughout this, showing clips from my past, some never before seen stuff. We're going to get into all of that. So, welcome tonight. We are talking about my journey in the wrestling industry. And that's right, it all began in 1989. I'm not kidding you. I was 7 years old when this journey really began. Watching wrestling, WWF, with my father on weekends and stuff got me interested. And then I'm in Freiburg, Maine over the summer at my grandmother's cabin. She never went. We'd go up there. She'd let the family go for a week here for this member of the family, the week here. So we're up there with my dad. And these kids that were at a house nearby invited me over. And we ended up doing what I guess you would call backyard wrestling before backyard wrestling was really talked about being a thing, right? Yeah, we know. That's most of my story. You know, backyard wrestling started out for me before there was all the, the backyard wrestling videos and the backyard wrestling video games. And before people were calling it backyard wrestling, I guess that's what we were doing. But we weren't quite doing it like the others. I mean, you hear people talk about backyard wrestling as this unsafe, don't know what they're doing, nothing's put together. It wasn't like that. Like, we ended up doing shows that were like shows in the backyard from a very early age. So this whole thing when I was in Freiburg, Maine was the catalyst that got it going. So that summer, that 1 week, we messed around with that, and it kind of played parts into one of the gimmicks I would use later on. But I didn't have a name per se at this point. 1990 came. I'm doing first grade for the second time. That's a story from my own life thing. Has nothing to do with this. And we'd mess around with ideas of wrestling and stuff with me and a couple of my friends. And I got in a legit fight with somebody in the schoolyard one morning before school, and I forget exactly what caused the fight. But I remember kind of just blanking. You know what I mean? I lost it. And I just kept hitting him. And I guess from what I was told later from friends, it took a couple of them to pull me off. And I kept swinging and pushing people and doing this and that. And my friend said, man, when you go, you're like a maniac, man. You just go, man. And that stuck. They were like, yeah. And then, we were talking about doing backyard stuff without the title, like I said. We wasn't calling it backyard, but we're talking about wrestling in our yards, or in the schoolyard at the time, actually, was where it started. And they're like, yeah, let's call you Alex the Maniac. And legit, from first grade on, that's been it. It evolved to be, my persona in the ring and out of the ring. That's just who I am, man. And Maniac is more me, I think, than Alex is me. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then you haven't really enjoyed the journey quite that far yet. But I'm talking about, like, I'm talking about like this young kid. You know what I mean? That young kid. That's Freiburg, Maine. That's 1998-ish. So that's a little later into the journey. And these are some of the backyard years that I'm talking about right there. So we're gonna stop there. We're gonna stop there and come back to that in a second. So what we're talking about is throughout the 90s, I started as running my own thing, kids in the neighborhood, and we called it Alex's Wrestling Alliance, and I thought that was awful. And I couldn't stand the idea of my name being in the title. So we quickly changed it. We changed it to Championship Wrestling Alliance, which years later I found out was the name of another independent type company. So my father or somebody had a magazine with wrestling stuff, independent or whatever. So I said, well, we got to do away with that. So we added an S to it, and it became Super Championship Wrestling Association, kind of like the SNES. So that was around 94, 95-ish. By 96, we were calling it DWO. It started in a yard. Now, I'm not supposed to talk about that. Years later, when I went with Indy, everything everyone was telling me was, don't talk about your yard years. Don't talk about starting out as a backyard wrestler. Erase that part of the history completely. Change the company name so that it has no connection to where you started in the yard. Yada, yada, yada. There's a finger for that, okay? Let me tell you. Forget about where I started. When you talk about people who are musicians, they talk about where they started as a kid doing this performance or that performance. When you talk about people doing magic or acting, they talk about where they started when they were a kid. In the wrestling business, that seems to be taboo and something we don't talk about when we try to pretend we just started out as a pro and that was that. Kiss my ass. Sorry to say. I'm going to call it as I see it. That's just bull. It just was not. It was not what I was believing in. It was not how I was taught to do things. I was taught to recognize where you came from and acknowledge it. And so I'm going to acknowledge it today because we kind of did gloss over it for a number of years. We took it off of we set up a separate YouTube and Daily Motion and all those pages, and we didn't air the old backyard stuff. And then we had one channel that aired some of the later backyard stuff, which I'm going to show you some of that now. But we didn't even still acknowledge the even older backyard stuff, which I wish I still had footage of. I don't have footage of a lot of it, but I do have some clips, some stuff from the early backyard years, and we're gonna play through that right now as well. So you got me coming to the ring right there. I mean, there was something brutally awesome about those days. I don't care what you say. And I went through a bunch of different looks and gimmicks. And through a lot of this, by the way, we're going to play video in the background, even though I'm going to be talking and describing things that may not always be connected to it. We lost top place already. There we go. I'm messing up things already. All right. Try and bear with me. I don't hear the audio coming off of that, though. I don't know if it is, but I have to check. Oh yeah, there's audio there. That's all I wanted to check. Okay.
At Blood Dash, things are gonna get
The promos of the early days, let me tell you. Okay, so before we go into the Indy year video, let me bring you to this, and this is an important thing to talk about. Blood Bash 2006. 2006 and 2007 were the last years of us in the yard, and we were already planning what was coming next. I had been talking for years about going indie. By this point, I had already gotten some indie training. I don't talk about that much, but I did. I was learning things already, and I was planning on where things go next. How am I getting out of the yard and going Indy? And people talk about injuries that I've had over the year, and I have to acknowledge this match because this match is probably the reason why I have rib pains now that I cannot get rid of. I had gotten a cracked rib during this match. Yes, that is real blood. There's nothing fake about that, for the record. Here's hit number 1 to the ribs. Hit number 2 to the ribs. And yeah, there's no faking in that. Let me tell you something. I had cracked my ribs that day. After that match, I was spitting up blood when I got behind the curtain. Okay, and here's number 3. This is what bloodbath is all about, baby. And the ribs were just EWO champ, Alex, in a backyard. And a lot of people ask me, like, why did you put yourself through this kind of abuse in the yard here? Well, we did have fans back then, and we had a growing fan base online. But yeah, no, it wasn't like a huge paying event or nothing like that. You know, like when we were in Indy and we had the crowds and whatnot. But it still meant something. I had hot for it, and I think that's what people don't understand is if you're not in the business or you don't love the business like that, you don't understand what that hot is and why it's so important to us. And it is so much more than what people realize it being. It is. There's no way to explain it. You know, there really isn't. You just either you get it or you don't get it. But if you have a passion about something, anything in your life, and it doesn't have to be wrestling, anything in your life, you might have an idea of why we do what we do because we have that passion. And I mean a passion like I can't explain to anything else. So, we talked about the 90s. We talked about the early 2000s. The end of 2007, we had it planned what we were going to do. I talked it out with some people. We had a meeting with some people. I don't want to get into the politics that what went on backstage, but let's just say something happened to where some people stole some ideas that we had and went and did them themselves while we were trying to do the same thing, and the ring that we were buying, and this whole thing happened. And we lost a lot of wrestlers. So we opened up 2008 after doing one show in an actual ring and an outdoor event. We went indoors. We continued our plan, and we were being told we were closed. You're done. The wrestlers that left and joined the other person who started something that's it. You're done. Well, I don't believe in being done. Not until I'm ready, and I wasn't ready. So we pushed into 2008. And the first couple shows in this old factory building were chaotic and messy and low quality. But we started getting interest from wrestlers going, I want to be a part of this. And we started bringing them in. And as we brought them in, things started heating up more, and we started getting better talent, and we eventually moved to better venues, and we started, by the third show inside, we had fans in the building that were pretty loud, okay? So it didn't take us long, and that was something that just made us go, wait a minute, we're on to something here. It is going to work. Many people have said that it can't be done. We're going to do it, and we continue to do it. So what I want to talk about is some of the injuries and some of the craziness that went on backstage. Promoting these early shows, I had some people that were, the first couple seasons, the biggest thing that we had going against us is we had certain indie workers. I forgot that this isn't showing right here. I gotta get back to this again. Let you see some of these clips. I thought it was up, but okay. There we go. I'll come back to what I was laughing at when it gets back to it, but we had this talent starting to come in and things starting to really work for us. And I didn't have my outfit or nothing yet at that point that I ended up using, and I had left the flannel and jean look behind, and it came back for hardcore matches a few But um, so what we started
No, you
having a
just love
problem with booking is we had now indie talent, and we had some of the old leftover yard talent, and we were bringing in people from other yard companies in all over New England that were interested in trying to make it into an actual ring and start doing indie type stuff themselves. So this is what I was laughing at: the kendo stick sword fight. Which years later, I ended up having an actual sword fight with the Raven in a match. What was supposed to be my final match. And nobody ever put pieces together. I don't know. Take that. Listen, so I had these egos going back and forth. And some of the egos were from some of the yard guys, and some of the egos were from some of the non-yard guys. And it was this whole thing that was going on where I gotta talk about this. To where, everybody's like, well, I don't want to work him, and I don't want to work him, and he's not up to my talent, or I'm better than this, and we snuffed that out real quick. You see some talent in some of the early videos that isn't there for very long, and there's a reason why they weren't there very long, because we were building something that I believed was like a family, and let me tell you, it became that. The people that worked in DWO over the years were loyal, a good chunk of them anyways, and we're like a family. The real core of DWL was like a family backstage, and they protected each other and worked hard with each other, and we're all about the same goal of pushing this thing to the next level. Where can we get it? And that's why I think DWL grew as quick as it did, to where we went from no fans allowed in a building to a semi-full building to doing shows that were packed, and no roster to a medium roster to a full roster within like 3 or 4 shows. It just happened so quickly, and we got rid of the talent that wasn't good. We wouldn't allow politicking backstage, and politicking is something in the business that is so bad with people. Oh, I'm friends with this person, so I should get over, or I should get this, and I should be put in these title matches, and I should do this and that, and we didn't allow that. Listen, if you watch, and if you know some of the backstories and watch some of what was going on in DWO over the years, from the yard years and the pro years, you would see that there are people that I could not stand, that personally I did not like, that did not like me, that got in arguments with me on the regular basis, that were getting title shots, that were getting pushes, that were getting over. And why? Because I did what was best for the business, not based on what was best friendship-wise. I didn't have to like you. I had to like how you worked. I had to like what you were putting on for the show, what you brought to the table, what you brought to the mix. I could overlook the don't like you thing, you know what I mean? And that's how I always work. That's how I will always work. Now I want to go back to this video, why I paused it here, because it has to do with, there was some injuries in the, people talk about backyard being dangerous. Listen to me. DWO was the safest backyard wrestling company I've ever heard of. There were no injuries happening in DWO really. I can think of 3 in the time from when I was in 1990 till we went pro. 3. After we went pro, oh my God, the injuries that happened. Like, wow. You had the guy, Mike Oakland, breaks his clavicle at one of the events, but this match, you don't see it here, but this match between me and somebody who I consider a good friend, Brandon Cross, I respect the hell out of him. He was only there with us for 1 season, but man, he was a great guy to work with, and his family was amazing, and I loved all of them being around. But during this match that I have with him, you saw the light tube come down, right? During this match, okay, now talking about that match, he had those gauges in his ear, and this is why wrestling with jewelry can be sometimes so very dangerous, because somehow the outfit that I had on, which was like a mesh shirt or something on my outfit, caught on it and tore the bottom piece of his ear off. Tore it off. He's laying in the ring next to me. I'm going for the pin, and there is a piece of his ear. It looks like a little piece of like a gummy that's been chewed up on, just laying there in a little spot of red, and I'm going, what the? Oh yeah, we gotta talk about that too, I guess. So I finish the match off. I tell the ref, get something. His a piece of his ear is literally on the ring. That was crazy. What you just seen there on the screen is a bunch of blood in the ring because of Silverhawk's nose getting busted open, legit, of course, by T Phoenix. There was some legit heat backstage. They didn't like each other. There was this big thing. T runs another company. There was always this odd dynamic going back and forth with us. There was this drama going back and forth and all that. But for the most part, we were able to put it aside at times. But this is one time where it just was not able to be put aside. And, we ended up, I gave the title where it was earned. I mean, Hawk left the ring and walked out. And as hard as a decision as that was, T stayed champion. Well, it's crazy though, right? My God, I got so much that I want to talk about, and I'm realizing there's so little time to talk about it all. We're already 21 minutes into this thing. If there's anyone in the chat that wants to have any questions at any point during this, please feel free to ask. If you got any comments, feel free to jump in. I am more than willing to talk about anything that was going on in the business back then if you ask about it, so feel free. If I see the comments, I will gladly get back to talking about those as well. And I'm going to continue to have some video playing. This ladder match at Conquest was pretty epic, and Damian Black I don't think got enough credit. That's who I'm in the match with. He did not get enough credit, and he came in and he did some pretty phenomenal things, and we put him in a title position, and he wins the title with a little cheatery at the end of the match, which really turned the crowd, and I thought it was great because into not just heel but power heel, and ran that way for like a year straight of just badassy attitude. But I kind of wish that we would have kept him around longer, and there were some minor politics that fell into play, and I was sad to see him leave the company when he did. It was a couple venues later, and that's a whole nother story for another time. I'm not going to be able to talk about all my wrestling stories today because there's just so many. I've written a book about it, though. Where's that book? It's around here somewhere. I've written a book about the DWO, and I've had some other people give their input, so it's not just all from my side of the story. And I'm going to publish that eventually, and I hope that there's people out there that want to read it. So here we are now at a venue that has some audience to it, and we were starting to really put things together, and the indie talent was building, and there was still what you could call yard talent mixed in, and people tell me that I should break away from that. I should have broke away from that for so long, and I just don't believe in that. I don't believe that that's ever truly been a thing that should have been where it was or whatever. It is what it is, right? It is what it is. So, let's talk about where things go from there. We get to where we had to leave the building we were at, where we had fans, to go to this little tiny venue. We did that for a little bit, and then we went back to a venue that we could have fans after a little bit. We had some crazy hardcore matches, and in 2009, these videos that you see right here, that's 2009. We have the casket match at the end. It was like a multi-pot match thing with me and Raven. Oh, by the way, see that right there? A lot of times, I did that in every match, and a lot of the time the camera wasn't on me, or there was a few times that I didn't do it, but most of the time I did that and nobody noticed it or knows what that was about. I do the whole cross thing, and then I point to the sky. A lot of people don't know what that was about, and that was something that I did just for me. I didn't really ever talk about it. It wasn't something that I was like promoting or going, oh, let me talk about this. My faith has been something that I don't talk about much. But part of that had to do not just who put us here, but also who's gone from here, and me sending my love to those who I hope are watching from above, family and friends who've gone too soon. And that's what that little thing to the sky is all about when I do that at the beginning of every one of my matches. And like I said, I don't do it every single one, but almost all of them, and a lot of the time it's off camera. We did interviews on the radio at Rhode Island College. That was a thing. We were starting to blow up.
That there were a number of things that you just cannot say on TV or on a wrestling show. My list goes something like this: shit, piss, fuck, cocksucker, motherfucker, tit, spot, turd, and swat.
We did that intro because that was right when George Collins had passed. These clips right here are from a DVD that was supposed to come out with me, talking about my career and stuff, and that didn't ever come together. Maybe someday it will. I don't know. The Renegades, me and the Pitbull prototype. You ever seen the old Renegade show? That's why it was called that. And now there's a new Renegade show with me and my friend Eddie Monster. But those were great days. I mean, I look back and I think about some of the fun that happened back then. So let's talk about the business a little bit more. I'm trying to balance talking about what's on the screen and also talking stories from the business. So we did a whole award show thing in 2009, and it was our first time really doing that. And we did it at this bar, and then we did it at the Park in future years, and starting to really pay a tribute to those who put their bodies on the line for the fans and stuff, and saying thank you, and also saying thank you to the fans. And that's something that we continued to do throughout the rest of the years. 2009 was like a stepping block for us. It was to where things were really starting to transition. We were starting to build some momentum, and I was having the time of my life. I was having some pains and issues that had built up over the years. I used to do rollerblading. I did years of backyard wrestling. But I was still pretty good shape, I felt like, at this time, and I was having the time of my life. I was having some issues with the fact that, I went through a big transition at this time. Me and my ex-wife split up. I moved on from that, and that was one of the things that was holding me back for years. I had the feeling that we could go indie, we could do all these things, and they wanted to see me making money and wanted to see TWO making money, but they wouldn't let me invest in it in the way that I said I needed to in order to make money. Within a month of separating, TWO took off. Why? Because I put the energy where it needed to be, and did the things that I had been saying for years needed to be done. And that was it. That was the make or break moment, and I said, well, we're gonna do this. During my yard years, I wrestled in a number of different backyard companies aside from just my own company throughout New England. The same happened when I went indie. I was invited to work at a number of different indie shows. I've held titles in about a dozen different companies. And I'm not saying that to brag or pat myself on the shoulder, because I've always been my biggest critic. I'd watch back and be like, oh, I did this wrong, or this could have been better, or this. When it came right down to it, that's the reason some of my best matches never got put on the internet, because I'd get so critical about the edit work on it that they'd never get posted. Well, meanwhile, the whole rest of the show is posted, and people are going, Alex, you were in this big, huge match, and it never went online. Why? That's the reason why. Because I'd hold back, and then something would happen. We were using old tapes at the time. Sometimes we were filming over tapes, and the quality just wasn't holding up. The ability to put some of those analog tapes into the computer, there was this lag problem, and they'd start to stutter. I'd get frustrated. The editing process that went on back in these shows, you don't understand how difficult it was compared to nowadays with digital. The nowadays digital, I mean, I wish we were running the way that we got cameras now, where we just take the memory card and pop it in, or the phone and just send it over the airwaves, and boom, there it is. I wish we had that ability back then, because I mean, and music stuff. But this is going on talking about the many different looks of Maniac. And I had, you know, whether it be the beard, the long hair, the blonde hair, the this hair, the that hair. We went through so many looks. And that was part of the DVD mix. And there's some of the backstage pictures and stuff from back then. Listen, I love the business. I do. And I gotta tell you, we're probably gonna go way over time today. Where we at here? Way over time we're gonna go. We gotta play all the footage. I'm gonna skip a little bit here. And I'm an unorthodox wrestler. That's what I want to talk about real quick. I've done things in the business for years that when I would train people, and it's not that I don't know how to do it the right way, it's that Maniac's character, the way Maniac is set up, is to do things in a very unorthodox, very throw your body to the wind type way. That was who I was. So when I would train people, and I did training for a while, I'd have to step back and be like, okay, now I've got to train them and tell them what not to do. And you may see me do this, but don't do it that way. It works, but don't do it that way. It's not good for your body. So I've cracked my ribs. In casket match, I was set to fall through the casket off of a ladder. That all happened, and the casket collapsed in a really funky way, and I ended up with the wood not moving. It was reinforced on the back wall of it, hit my nose here, went up, instant of blood, broke my nose at Blood Bash 2009. There was footage of that somewhere. I'm not sure if it still exists, of when I pop back up out of the casket and there's just blood on my face. I've bled for this business more times than I can count. I've broken my thumb a couple times. I've broken my arm a couple times. Broken ribs. Broken my nose 4 times. My nose has been broken in my life. 4 times. JT Ice, who I was just facing in that match, was on MTV Busted. We've had some pretty unique names come through who did unique things in the wrestling and other businesses that have been on TV or other things. Look at this. This is our first blood match against DJ Crimson, who was a phenomenal athlete, phenomenal indie worker, who once said he'd rather do a show with us and not get paid for it than go do a show where we get paid, just because of how much he enjoyed working in our locker room and the lack of BS and politics in the back scene, and how everyone just worked so well together. And look at that blood. Look at it. I was handcuffed to the ropes at that point, folks. Handcuffed to the ropes and smashed in the head with a steel chair, unable to, definitely couldn't block it or nothing. My hand was cuffed to the thing. Oh yeah. So, you know, I want to fast forward a little bit because we are going over time, and I want to show you so much more. And I think I will. I think we'll come back and try and remember where we were with this. But I'll be able to get to the spot that I'm looking for. See, this is where we really started having packed shows, where like I'd go backstage and then I'd come back out and the place was just packed, and it's like, where did all these people come from? Early cage matches. What I want to show you here is something that kind of got me worked up a little bit earlier today when I watched it. I retired in 2010, and then I came back about a half a year later. This is the speech, and I want to leave this on this. I'm going to do another episode about talking about the wrestling business, and I got so many stories to tell, but I want you to just catch this. This is honestly, from my heart, what I was feeling.
It's because we love this. We love each and every one of you guys out here that support us all. We love this business. And I tell you something, I've broken myself now for 20 years doing this. And I've loved every minute of it. If I could go back and do it all again, I would. Honest to you. But I had an announcement I had to make. And the truth of the matter is this. Next show, we'll lose or draw. It's about time I step out of this ring. And I leave a legacy, teaching every one of you guys that come in after me. I love you all for everything you've done. Every one of you fans who made my life what it is, man.
The reaction there, man. Never what I expected. I expected my retirement when I left to be quiet and and sometimes I wish that I had just left.
I don't have a party lined up, and I want to leave it all up to you guys in the back to decide who's going to face me. My last time out here, man. I love you all. I love you too, man.
The reaction I got in my final match in 2010 too was even more than this, and it just blew me away. And I really do. I love every fan that's ever been there for me, every person that's ever known me in the locker room. I'm never gonna forget all that. I'm never gonna forget all that. You guys meant the world to me, and I love you all for it. And I hope that someday you can see the question is, would I ever get back in the ring? And I mean, I never know what the future holds, but it's not in my plans. But I do want to say this. They've said for a long time that DWO was going to die, or it was dead, and that it wasn't coming back. And every time that they said that, we brought it back. And I always said that DWO would last no matter what, even beyond me. It didn't own any person. And I want to leave you with this note, that while I may not be involved in DWO, that's in my past, and I will always talk about DWO. I'm going to come back and do more streams talking about my past, show some more matches, show some more clips, but running shows or performing in shows is probably, all in the past. But DWO deserves to go forward even without me. And it's been talked about for a while. I talked to somebody about it, and they've been trying to make the deal happen. And I will tell you that DWO will return. I may not be in the picture, but DWO will return with somebody else running the shows, somebody else doing this. It's somebody else's turn. But, I love you all. And me not being there is not me saying that I don't support it. Trust me, I 100% will support the future DWO as it goes forward. I may not be a part of it anymore, but I hope the best for it. And I hope the best for everybody who is a part of it in the future. They have a Facebook page up. I'll try to find a link and post that up somewhere. I haven't posted it. It's been up for a while, and I haven't had anything to do with it because I wasn't sure if it was right for me to have any part in any way with it, seeing that I'm not going to be involved in it. And I don't want people to be confused by me posting something about it and think that that means that I'm going to have a part of it, because no, my part is gone. But DWO will return. And I know the strength of what this company was built on and the people that were in it in the past, and I know the strength of what it can be and what it will become. And I believe in that future. And I believe that DWO, long after I'm gone, not just gone from the business, but gone, DWO will have a way of resurrecting itself and coming back again and again and again, and bigger each time, because that's how it was for us. Every time we came back, it was bigger, it was better, and it only grew. And we were before we shut down, we were on the verge of starting to do internet pay-per-views and all these other things that now are even more easier to do than it would have been at the time that we were doing it. So I believe that the future is bright for the people that are going to be running it. Man, I miss that kid. The one in black there, Rage. He's no longer with us at all, and I talked about that on my mental health videos, and I miss you, dude. I really do. He was a pleasure to work with, man. He busted his balls for the business too. He's a great dude. I miss him. I do. Listen, again, broken ribs. I worked the show after breaking my ribs in yard years and got slammed into a metal thing in a cage match and only did more damage to him. I've got so many injuries to talk about, I guess, and so many cool stories about things that went on backstage, and I've not enough time to talk about it all. We went through 40 minutes here, and I'm gonna leave you with these last clips and say I'm Maniac signing out. See you all on the flip side. Love you. Love you all. From the bottom of my heart, I love you. I always will love you. God bless. Stay strong. I love you all. Rock on, love. You know.